Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akninsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
How are you doing? Morning, Vivai.
Morning, Adefemi. How are you today?
I'm okay, thank you. Morning, Rufai. Hope you can hear me all the way up there in Abuja.
Morning, Adefemi.
Good.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you so much.
Yes, we're here.
Good. All righty, well, let me tell you all.
Femi.
That's me.
Oko Mame.
That is also me. Thank you, Rufai. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, over the past week, the Islamic Republic of Iran and Israel have written a new chapter in their nearly 60-year history of hostility. Arguably, this started in 1967 when Iran took possession of its Tehran research reactor under America's Atoms for Peace program. Now, 12 years later, in 1979, Iranian students seized the U.S. embassy in Tehran, leading to 444-day hostage crisis. Now, Iran's nuclear program gets slowed under international pressure during this time. And then with this new regime in command, Iran identifies Israel as a major enemy. Essentially, that is when this situation starts. So that's a loose background of the tensions when they began all of those years ago. So let's go through a timeline of the weekend's events. On Friday, the 13th of June, Israel launched attacks on the heart of Iran's nuclear and military structure, deploying warplanes and drones that have been smuggled into the country to assault key facilities and kill top generals and scientists. The next day, which was Saturday, Israel expanded its airstrikes to include targets in Iran's energy industry. By this time, Iranian missile and drone attacks also continued on Israel. Now, on Sunday, the 15th of June, Israel unleashed airstrikes across Iran for a third day and threatened even greater force. That's as some Iranian missiles were able to evade Israeli air defenses to strike buildings in the heart of the country. Now, planned talks on Iran's nuclear program in Oman between the United States and Tehran have been called off. And this morning, early on Monday, the deadly conflict between Israel and Iran enters its fourth day, with both sides firing new waves of missiles overnight amid international pleas for diplomacy and de-escalation. Now, Iran's early Monday strikes have hit an Israeli oil refinery and damaged part of Israel's power grid. In Israel, 4 women were also killed in the same family by an Iranian airstrike. Now, the death toll in Iran has risen to 224 deaths at least, and that includes 70 women and children. And in Israel, 18 people, at least 18, have been killed in the country over the same period. Now, Israel's military chief of staff says the strikes will only get more severe, and Iran says the same. Moving on now, and the largest manhunt in Minnesota's history is now over, as the suspect in the assassination of one lawmaker and her husband and the attempted assassination of another in the state has been captured. This is 57-year-old Vance Bolter, who was arrested on Sunday following a 2-day manhunt in the Midwestern state. Bolter is alleged to have dressed like a police officer before shooting 2 Democratic lawmakers and their spouses in a politically motivated attack on Saturday morning. Now, Melissa Hoffman, a state representative, and her husband Mark were killed in the attack, while State Senator John A. Hoffman and his wife Yvette were injured. Now, Vance Bolter is believed to be a conservative and outspoken evangelical Christian who traveled to the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2023 to preach against American morals on sexuality. He worked in the security industry, but business had been failing, essentially, leaving him to struggle to find work. Police also say that when he was apprehended, there were Trump flyers found in his car. Though the suspect was armed, no force was used to apprehend him as he crawled towards police officers. Bolter faces 2 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Those are your stories. Love to hear your thoughts.
All right. Wow, what a weekend it's been. Unfortunately, so much bad news. The escalation between Iran and Israel has certainly had most of us sort of just gasping for air. At some point, especially when some parody accounts of the Iranian military came up on social media, it's almost been an information war as much as it has been an air war, because we're seeing, no soldiers moving back and forth between the two countries. We're just seeing missiles flying back and forth, which goes to show you that we've really reached a very scary and concerning era where it comes to warfare. One thing that has been done, I think this is a subject of debate. One thing I believe has been done is I think that the Israeli Iron Dome has somewhat been demystified, because we always had that image that it was the perfect, the perfect protection cover from all things. Yes, those other people are saying that no, it's been effective because the damage would have been worse. But when you look at the damage in Tel Aviv, the fire this morning at the Haifa power plant as well, they have hit power plants. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Now, where do we stand on this issue? It's very complicated, in my opinion, because if you go into history and you look at some of the rhetoric that came out of Iran from the 1979 Iranian Revolution that brought Ayatollah Khomeini to the helm, and he was very anti-West, anti-imperial, and felt that Israel was sort of the beacon of everything he stood against, and he would say statements as broad sweeping as Israel must be wiped out, Israel is to be destroyed. Israel must be gone. You look at that, and then you sort of look at the tolerance and the sympathy towards groups like Hamas from the Iranian side. But then from the Israeli side, you now say, okay, shouldn't some of these threats have proportional responses? Because you now go all out. First, there's the issue with the October 7th attack that, of course, we saw major escalation. And now we saw the Operation Rising Lion, which, unprovoked, went straight into Iran. So it's a very complicated place, as far as I'm concerned, when we're looking at the geopolitics of it. I think both sides need to show a lot of restraint, and it's unfortunate. It seems that there's nobody they listen to. I watched Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday basically just, go off like he's not accountable and answerable to anybody. It's a real shame.
Thanks, Rufai.
Rufai.
Thank you, Rufai. I hope you can hear us. Not at all, not at all.
Yes.
Go ahead, Rufai.
Yes. Femi C, let's go historical. The sad part is that America, that causes most of the problem in the world, now behaves hypocritically. Donald Trump says nobody's giving him credit. He's been trying to mediate amongst them. There will be peace soon. Let's go back historically. In the 50s, America had a romance with a man called the Shah of Iran, Pahlavi. That romance meant that most of Iranian oil was co-owned by the Americans and the British. Mossadegh, a nationalist prime minister, came and said that must stop. Iranian oil must be for Iranians. So he went against the Shah. And for a brief moment, he was winning. In parliament, he was able to get more power to himself, and he brought about the nationalization. The Americans didn't like it. You know what they did? They planted a coup. They had declassified documents by CIA saying Americans supported the coup. In fact, they spent over $100,000 bribing people to bring about a coup. Then they returned power to the Shah. Then the Americans themselves started this nuclear program for Iran under the Shah, call it Atoms for Peace. The question I'd like to ask the Americans this morning is, if the Shah was still in charge of Iran, are they going to say it's not good for Iran to own their own nuclear weapons? But America, as usual, very hypocritical. When the Iranian Revolution happened in 1979, they started fighting Iran because they saw the possibility with what they had started with the Atoms for Peace program. All these years, Iran is now the problem. Iran that was once an ally because they had a puppet in the Shah. We all know how the Shah finally died. In 2015, they had something called the JCPOA for negotiations. But Iran also is unsure. And that's why it keeps ramping up uranium enrichment to where it's gotten to about 60%, which they're complaining about. Talks are still supposed to be on, but America and Israel planned all of this because Axios recently released an information that Americans were aware. In fact, I'm sure you have also seen the story that it was Donald Trump that disabused their minds about the idea to kill the Ayatollah. So they planned all of this, but what are they doing? They are targeting uranium sites, Natanz and the likes, but the truth is they are not creating any damage because most of uranium, the nuclear program of Iran is subterranean, over 800 meters subterranean. So they would definitely need buster bombing bombs, like bombers like B-52, to be able to get in there. This is just an attempt for Israel to be able to facilitate a regime change that America has always wanted since '79 revolution in Iran. And they just feel since the Israelis have helped them to demobilize some of their counterparts and their allies, the likes of the Hezbollahs of this world, then they can sweep in and facilitate this regime change. Netanyahu said it himself. And you know why America want to do this? So that they can get somebody that will be favorable to the West in Iran.
Understood.
Because of the control they've always wanted.
Thanks, Rufai. Thank you so
So
much.
let us put these things in historical context. All of a sudden, Netanyahu is acting like he's fighting for a nuclear-free world.
Right.
Let us ask Israel, don't they have their own nuclear weapon program? We cannot live in a world of unfairness. And for the man that attacked the Hoffmans, very sad tale, this also goes to the kind of politics some Republicans are playing in America. Do you know that that man had a manifesto list of Democratic leading politicians he was going to kill? And you know why? Because they were pro-abortion. So look at the hardline politics they play in America. If somebody does not agree with you, the next thing you should kill the person.
Agreed. Well, thank you very
I
much,
hope he's
Rufai.
investigated and they get to the end of the matter.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Rufai. Dr. Rubin, go ahead.
Okay, very quickly. Let's look at the editorial points because those are the important details. The world finds itself at a crossroads at this moment with the level of threat to global peace being threatened. Against the background of crisis between Ukraine and Russia, of crisis in Sudan, of conflict between Israel and Hamas, and now you have Israel and Iran, in what promises to be a very combustible situation in international politics. Now, what we fear is a likely rapid escalation of the conflict and the rapid cycle of escalation that we have already been witnessing confirms this. Today is day 4 of the outbreak of hostilities between Iran and Israel. Now, Israel attacked Iran last week. You said over 224 persons died.
Yes.
Over 1,700 persons have been injured. Yes. And Iran retaliated over the weekend, also hitting targets in Bat Yam, in Haifa, and in Tel Aviv, in the course of which persons died. Even this morning, Iran has also reacted, creating a very difficult problem for global peace. Now, what are the strands of this? The United States says it is fully aware of the strikes. And Trump has been quoted, President Trump that is, as saying that nobody should touch the Ayatollah, Ali Khamenei. Maybe President Trump and the Americans are still leaving a room for further negotiations over the issue of nuclear disarmament. How far they can now go with that remains to be seen. Right. Second, the Iranian defense minister is insisting that America should be held responsible in terms of this. So this is the setting of it, and we do not see a quick end to this. But it is all of us that will suffer. It is the entire world that has a stake in this matter. Look at the stock market as at this morning. The London FTSE has gone down. France's CAC 40 has gone down. Germany's DAX has gone down. Stocks across the world, they've all gone down, particularly, airline stocks, travel and air stocks, against the background of the fact that Iran has closed its space, no flights to Tel Aviv. How does it concern us directly in Nigeria? Many will draw attention to the fact that Brent crude has gone up 2.22% to close as at yesterday or this morning, $75.88 per barrel, which is over the benchmark. But as I pointed out last week, that's not a thing to celebrate because you are going to reap the effect in terms of the rising cost of everything.
Of course.
U.S. crude, WTI, also increased 2.22%, from last week, as of this morning, to about $74.56 per barrel. Spot gold has gone up 0.38%. Gold futures for August has gone up 1.14% as people try to look for safe havens. The dollar has strengthened against the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen. So these are some of the effects that we have seen. In the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom has advised its nationals not to go to Israel and not to go to Iran, even if already, the airspaces in those countries are closed. And those who are stranded there, who went on pilgrimage, they have been told to stay there. Yeah. I expect that the Nigerian government will also advise our people. If you are in Israel, just stay there. If you are in Iran, just stay there, because Nigerians are everywhere. Those of you who want to go, don't go anywhere at this time, because every Nigerian life is important, whether the ones that are stranded in Jerusalem or the ones that are, at home here in Benue. Now, as for the gentleman Butler who was arrested, well, Butler could not bolt away because they launched in the state of Minnesota the biggest manhunt in the history of the state, and he's been arrested. Well, he will be charged, as it were. But again, this shows you the seriousness of the American system, of the security system. Over 100, security personnel were deployed to fish him out after the killing of the Hartmans and the wounding of Hoffman, and his wife, Yvette. But we'll watch the situation. No motive has been established, other than that in the police vehicle that he was using, the fake police vehicle that he was using, they found some documents, names of over 70 lawmakers, pro-abortionists, and all of that. But they've not been able to tie the tissues together.
And also with the lady who was unfortunately assassinated, her death. I think in Minnesota, there was an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. And so with her death, it kind of leaves things in a vacuum. So there were reports that perhaps that was another level of the political motivation that, if they were able to remove a Democrat out, perhaps more legislation that would be more conservative leaning would be able to more easily pass through.
We don't have a definitive statement yet.
That's true. That is correct.
The woman you are referring to, Hartman, she was Democratic House Speaker in the state of Minnesota. But very unfortunate. Nobody deserves to die, either for ideological or for political reasons.
Well, thank you all for your submissions. Let's go now to newspaper headlines. Let's take a look at the front page of This Day this morning. And This Day does lead with President Bola Tinubu yesterday describing the recent killings in Benue State as depressing, declaring that this has to stop. And as a government, that they will not let the bloodletting in the state continue. President Tinubu also directed security chiefs to implement his earlier directive to bring lasting peace and security to Benue State. Now, it's that insecurity in Benue which also leads on the leadership paper this morning. The Inspector General of Police will be visiting the state today. The Guardian also leads with Benue as the Pope also decries the quite terrible massacre. He actually used those words to describe what is happening in Benue. Now to the New Telegraph, and it leads with the chaos during a stakeholders meeting of the All Progressive Congress in the Northeast held in Gombe State on Sunday after key party leaders, including the National Vice Chairman of the Northeast faction, Comrade Mustafa Salihu, and the APC National Chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, failed to mention Vice President Kashim Shettima in their speeches while endorsing President Tinubu for a second term in 2027. Chaos cascaded. Now, to the Daily Sun, which reports on the Nigerian Guild of Editors being prepared to it's set to hold its biennial national convention in Enugu from the 26th of June to the 29th. And its theme this year is building a secure, cohesive Nigeria, the role of dialogue, inclusion, and the media. 400 editors will be participating. Those are your newspapers. Thanks so much.
That's all we have time for. Thank you so much, Adefemi, for getting us through that.